a guy like Emmanuel and his daughter Laurence, I thought I travel a lot. They're handling the entire planet. So we have a really one of the premier, most well-traveled, knowledgeable men in the entire wine business. His daughter is learning and becoming a part of the businesses and part of the succession planning for the business is also joining us. So we're very fortunate. It's an absolute pleasure to spend time with and learn from. And both of these two are incredibly valuable for somebody like myself and for our whole entire team, which does include Tokar, Mandy, Leona, and then Chris. I don't know where Chris is. He's maybe he'll come in, maybe he won't. So we're very fortunate to have him. Very privileged to introduce to you very good friends and valuable team members and people that I genuinely enjoy spending time with, Mr. Emmanuel Montes and his daughter Laurence. And I highly recommend, if you guys want, you can pin the videos so that one thing's kind of nice. We have a group that we have people small enough we don't really necessarily have to worry about a lot. And if somebody wants to jump in and ask a question, I think we can. It only gets tricky when you have 70 people in or something like that. So welcome to you both. Thanks for being here. It's late at night.
Yeah, thank you for receiving us.
I'm glad to have you here. Before we get started, I want to give everybody a little bit of background on how Emmanuel and I met. Back in 2011, I went to my first Provine in Dusseldorf, Germany. And at that time, we had made the decision that we were going to start importing Cab de Turckheim, and which, by the way, is one of the best decisions I ever made. And I was speaking with the export manager at Cab de Turckheim, and I said, I really need somebody that could help me source some really nice Southern French wine, red, because we, obviously in Alsace, it's 80% white, maybe 90% white. So she walked me over to and introduced me to Emmanuel, and we've had a very trusted and valued friendship ever since. And I can tell you that he has been incredibly patient with me, and patient with us. As a matter of fact, I am so certain that if you went to the Webster's Dictionary and looked up patient, and I don't mean as in a hospital, I mean as somebody who really will sit there and just go, okay, I'm with you, just relax. His picture would be right there. He's been very patient with me. So for someone like me, Emmanuel and Laurence are without question incredibly important. And they work all over the world. They work here in the United States a lot, and they're very important to everybody that enjoys wine. So if you are, whether you are, somebody that imports or distributes or retails, even if you are a person who just really enjoys good wine, they're incredibly important because they're the ones that start to see things and start to, match people up with things like that. So, nothing that gets into the United States of America is an accident. There's a lot of work that goes into it and a lot of stuff that goes behind it. And they're behind it. But if you've enjoyed a glass of Chateau Clement or Fontenelle, anything like that, you have enjoyed there. Look at that, and there's a Clement's right there. You have enjoyed the work of Emmanuel and his daughter. So welcome to you both. Thanks for taking the time to be with us. I know it's late there. Where are you guys exactly? Where exactly are you in the world?
Important question to me, because you must know first that we are Catalans, and Catalonia is so important to us. We are the French part of the whole Catalonia that is also well implanted in Spain. It's difficult for me to say the word Spain because like the Basque country, we have our brothers on the other side of the border, of the Pyrenees. I don't call the Pyrenees border, I call them the mountains.
So you're way down south then?
We are the southernmost place in France.
Ah, great.
Perpignan.
So you guys can see on the map that I put up here, here's where they are. And then relative to, here's Paris up here. So I flew down when I went to visit them. You can take the train as well, but it is a beautiful, beautiful spot right on obviously the ocean there. So it's really a spectacular place. And you ever get the chance to go, you definitely want to go check it out because it's something. So
it's a kind of little paradise.
It is a slice of paradise. I would agree with you. Before we get started, just the one, question: how is life in southern France right now? Not to spend a bunch of time on it, but with the virus, how are things?
Virus has affected differently the France. The coastal, the Mediterranean, and the Atlantic is much less affected than the northeast region, and including Paris. So we are what we call in a green zone, a bit more free than our friends from northeast, from Alsace and Paris, and Champagne.
Did you have to go through the lockdown or not?
We went out from the lockdown last Monday.
Okay, good. Okay, so tell everybody.
It's comfortable.
Good. Well, that's good. I'm glad it's over. It's just hopefully it's starting to wind down a little bit here as well, but I don't know. But tell everybody a little bit about your role in the wine business and when did you get started? How did you get started? And how long have you been at it? You've been doing this a while, right?
It's a long story. Yeah. Our family is in the wine growing, wine farming since 1569.
Wow.
In the same place in the Roussillon is a little province of Catalonia. The kingdom of Catalonia was existing before the kingdom of France. So we are an old country. My family bought an estate in 1569 to the Knights of Temple.
Wow.
The Knights of Temple were implanted in this region because they have been asked to leave France in 1307. But this part of Roussillon was not French. So it was kind of a refugee shelter for them in this area. And my family bought the estate to the Knights of Temple at this period. So we are in the wine growing, in the farming, because at this time people were not only growing vines or grapes, but also cereals. They had cattle, etc. They were big farms.
Mm.
So we are maybe the 10th or 12th generation into this activity.
And when did
we are born in the grapes.
When did you get started in your selling? Because you're more right now. You're in the selling business.
Okay, all of us in my family we decided to have a separate activity from the farming, in order to privilege all the income, all the profits of the growing were reinvested into our own vineyards. So we never took any profit, direct profit from the growing. For that reason, we have a separate activity. And my activity, I was destined by my parents to be a doctor. Maybe not my cup of tea exactly. I moved quite quickly in 76, yes, into the high business school. And just before passing my exam, I got an offer as an export manager for Vigneron Catalan. It was the largest COP unit in the area of Roussillon. So I took the business. And I learned, and the exports were not developed at this time. It was quite simple and very rustic.
Right.
Selling a lot of bulk. People didn't know about the wines from Roussillon, except the sweet fortified Rivesaltes, Banyuls, and others. But nothing was existing it was a desert in terms of knowledge of wine.
And Laurence, when did you decide to get into this and follow in your father's footsteps?
Oh, it was always in a part of my mind for a few years, because I was following him during his trip and expo. And it's been like a couple of years, I wanted to be more active in the business.
And your background is not in the wine business.
No, I've got a law degree and I work for a bank. I'm a lawyer. Nothing nothing with the wine.
And I think wine's a little bit more fun, I think.
Definitely.
She's very rich. She's a rich lady.
Yeah, right.
She plays with billions and billions.
Yeah.
And you have some big shoes to fill, right? Because your father knows everyone, is arguably one of the most popular people I know. When I'm in France or Spain, or and I mention his name. It's unusual that somebody doesn't know exactly who he is. They might, maybe they haven't met him and maybe they haven't shaken hands, but they know who he is.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
Okay, so one of your father Emmanuel's greatest abilities, and he has a number of them, is his ability to bring people together. And he builds a very strong network. And I know for me that in getting to know him, that was one of the things that was really important to me, is that he knows everybody and he builds networks. He's a networker, and I think that's how the world operates, I believe. So. In our world of wine, there's growing grapes and making wine, and there's marketing and selling. And the marketing and selling is where you guys come in, right?
It's a hard question because I come from, at the origin, marketing in the wine trade in south of France was not existing at all. So we created everything step by step, just by experience. So we made a lot of mistakes, as you can imagine, and we have been lucky in this period because the world of wine in France were lacking of, I would say, experts or people really involved into the development of their own product. You know, French producers in south of France, because it is the origin of my activity, are just wine growers, grape growers. So they were bringing the grapes to the cup, and they don't care afterwards to what the wine is becoming. So our job started from nothing, and I must say the first 20 years of my activity, I worked for Vigneron Catalan, was one of a big group of south of France. We started by maybe, if I remember well, something like 500,000 cases, and when I left, we were around 6 million cases.
Oh, wow.
So so that means we have been able to federate and to aggregate a lot of people and helping them, first of all, to produce good wines. But the key of a good marketing is to produce good wines.
Right.
And they did it. And I started to build my network, not only with distributors or retailers or importers, but first of all, with the COP people, with the growers.
And, I think part of what America might not fully understand is it fair to say that most of the people in Europe, especially France and Spain, that wine is really made in the vineyard, right?
Yes, I would say people are making the wine in their own facilities most of the time. It's not like in US where you are buying grapes and you bring it in big wineries. And it doesn't happen in France, nor in Italy, nor in Germany. France is the model of the diversity. Everyone is producing his own wine.
Right.
That's the model of France.
There is no word in French for winemaker, is there?
We prefer to say cellar master.
Cellar master, right.
Because he is the link between the vineyard and the finished wine and the market.
And what about in Spain? Is it the same or?
Alors, in Spain, it's another structure. You have a lot of growers, a lot of COPs, and but we have big operators like Marquès de Riscal, all these big brands that you know, and they federate and they aggregate. They are private wineries that aggregate wine. So they are more brand builders than we are in France. Right.
Interesting. So we won't get into it on this particular conversation, but it is something that that I want to do a meeting on and invite people in to really explain the difference between a cooperative and how they go about and do their business, and then maybe a typical winery. Because a lot of times here in America, you get off the airplane and you're going into Napa, Sonoma, Central Coast, San Luis Obispo, something like that. And, a lot of times you walk into a winery and it's one owner, one winery, and they're, whereas that's not the model in most of Europe.
In France, not at all. We play diversity. And it's a long time willing from the French government because, you know, the wine is regulated by an organism called INAO, Institut National des Appellations d'Origine. So everything you are doing in the wine planting, wine growing is controlled by government. And depending on the policy of the government, you will have different directions.
Right.
So the INAO is specifically recognizing the origin and the quality of the terroir. The terroir is the main word, the expression of a small piece of land.
Right.
So we are not looking for big blends, for huge blending and big brands.
Interesting, interesting. So I know you got started on the wine growing side. But you just didn't want to stay with that. You decided to get into the traveling sales side of it.
Where in my family?
Yeah.
No.
Well, in your career.
In my career. So I left the family growing to another part of my family, and I focused on the my job, my activity with Vigneron Catalan during 20 years. And we created from nothing the export activity. And in this time, you have nobody was traveling, nobody was speaking English, and nobody knows about marketing.
Right.
It was absolutely rustic. I did everything. I did the samples, I do the blend, I do the label, I pack the samples, and I send them.
Interesting.
And from nothing, we grow from 500,000 cases to 5 or 6.
Right. So everybody can see why this is a guy that you just want to, you want to spend time with if you're in this business, because he's been a part of all of it, like all of it. I know I don't have that extensive a background for sure.
But what I must say is the marketing we were applying is trying to identify the taste of every market and to send the corresponding wine to each market. It's a simple, basic marketing, but it works.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get into that here shortly, because that was something that was funny. I was thinking about all the notes that I had written out, and I'm like, there's one thing that I didn't think about, and of course I sent you a WhatsApp this morning and said I was going to add it in. We'll get to that in a second. So the business of wine, a tall order, and I know it's hard to explain all the things that you do in this short period of time that we have, but can you explain to everybody what it is that you and your team do, and your daughter, and in a Reader's Digest version, what is it that you typically do? And you're thinking about somebody like myself or Tokar, Mandy, Chris. What are you thinking exactly? What are you doing?
No. First of all, I created what I call my dream team of good producers, and building with them the confidence. The key of everything is confidence. Confidence with you, of course, when I present you some wines, but confidence with my producers when I tell them you have to produce this kind of wine and to present this kind of wine to such people. Most of the time people have wines and they want to sell it because they think they have the truth. They have something that everybody is looking for. It's not the case most of the time.
Right.
So my job is to have confident producers and identifying the good wines that can fit the different markets we have in front of us.
Interesting. And
first of all, the product is in priority, the product.
Right. You're focused obviously on the price, the quality first, the price, and making sure that it fits.
Fitting the wine with the markets.
Right.
I have a panel of different wines. I am able to display the different wines to the different markets.
Right, right. And for everybody that's listening and on the YouTube channel as well, what works here in the United States might not work in Korea or Japan, and vice versa. For example, in those markets, they don't really drink a lot of white wine. It's mostly red. So part of something when Laurence or Emmanuel are going to their producers and they're talking about what they need to produce, then as a general rule, they're not really looking for, something that's Sauvignon Blanc or something like that. They're looking, am I right on that, guys? Am I right?
It depends from where the demand is coming. I don't like to force the demand.
Right.
As you tell me, I'm patient. I'm very patient. So my job is more to identify the needs of everyone and to adjust these two positions. I'm just a passerby or go-between, you know,
right.
just to fit the two positions. If we are in that position, it's over. I'm dead.
Right.
Must be exactly fitting the two positions.
Oh, and Laurence, what's your primary function? What are you doing in your role?
For now, I'm learning mostly, and I hope that I can bring new ideas because there is a new generation with drinking wine, and maybe not the same way than the one before. So maybe I hope to bring that also and to learn, mostly to learn.
I hope so. I supposed to be retired.
Well, we never stop learning. I mean, that's 99% of the enjoyment of, I think often it's one of the most enjoyable things in life is to, you know, I actually, it's funny. I tell people all the time, I'm like, I enjoy being proven wrong because that means I'm learning something, you know, it's fun. So how much do you both travel, and, you know, how many times on average, and not, this is obviously 2020 is not a regular year, but how many times would you get to the United States, and how much do you both travel?
Alors, I reduced a little, not reduced, but I focused my activity on about 6-7 countries. Ireland and UK, Japan, Korea, US and Canada. And time to time, I answered to some specific demand to Germany and Scandinavia. So for traveling, it's about 2 times a year in Asia, 2 times a year in Northern America, because Canada is important. And maybe 2-3 times a year in UK islands, and 1 time in Germany, 1 time in Scandinavia, in a normal year.
Right, in a normal year. And I can tell you guys, I went to visit them in December of 2018, I think it was, and I landed in Perpignan, and I think, Emmanuel, you had just gotten in from Japan, and I was like, I can't believe you're actually hosting me when you just got in from Japan. I mean, that's a long trip. So,
you know, when you flew to Japan 40 or 50 times, you start to be used to.
Yeah, you're used to it. Yeah.
But for you, flying to France is nothing.
Huh? I enjoy it every time.
You're a miler.
Yeah, well, I don't know how long, when I'm going to start adding those miles up again. It's going to be a while.
No. Air France just frozen our position for 1 year.
Right, your status. That's great. Yeah, we have the same thing. We're guaranteed diamond through 2021, I think it is. So, how you both speak multiple languages? How many languages do you both speak?
Just 2 for me, like English and Spanish, and I'm learning Catalan also, but he is a master of language.
Catalan, a little Spanish if you force me. I can ask for a beer in German, and I can ask a sake and a sushi in Japan, and a vodka in Moscow. That's it. A little English.
A little. Well, and Laurence, I don't think you're being fair to yourself if you've got Spanish, English, French. That's 3. I think Catalan is 4, right?
I'm a beginner at Catalan.
Interesting. So, Emmanuel, I want to tell everybody, obviously, I've said it once, I'm going to say it again, how amazing you are at what you do. And I'll offer up to people here that you're someone who always puts your customers and clients ahead of everything else. And that's a very special skill that you have. Tell me, how did you develop that? I mean, I guess it's intuitive on your part. You're sort of a natural at it. You know, were you thinking that, you know, that's what you wanted to do, or did you didn't go to school for that?
I must say I'm easy in terms of relation. First of all, with the growers. Even if I left the company Vigneron Catalan 20 years ago, I'm still familiar with all the people of the area. 20 years after, they still know me. So I developed the confidence from that time, 40 years ago. And I understood that the relation is a key between people. never force people to order. I never force people to take something they don't want to take. And my success is I never take an order. If you give me an order to manage, it will be a catastrophe. So I know my limits. So I refuse to be involved in terms of logistics or order. And I prefer that my team, my producers, will manage that. If you ask me about an order, it will be a mess. I promise you. So I can now focus on wine and relations.
Interesting. Well, you know, it is important. I think in life is to always know what your limitations are. And I know mine is. I'm terrible with details. It's my number one Achilles heel. So I always try to, have somebody that knows details better than I could ever know them. But I will also tell everybody along the lines of what we're talking about, and then we'll move along here. And Tokar is going to agree with me because she was with me. But arguably, one of my favorite times ever in this business, and what I love to do is I love all the different cultures and all the different types of people I get to meet, and it's a lot of fun. But we were at Wine Paris, and I think it was February of 2019, and Emmanuel's clients and customers all love him. They love him like he's part of the family. And so here we are at the show. We all decided to go out to dinner together, and I think there were 17 of us. And we end up, and this is, you can't make this up. It's pretty funny. We're in Paris. We end up in a Korean restaurant in Paris with Korean guys who enjoyed their beverages quite a bit. It was a lot of fun, but we had a great time. There were 5 or 6 countries at the dinner table that night?
Something like that.
Yeah.
David, that gives me the opportunity to speak about 2 important people to me present at this dinner. The one is Philippe Hott, that you spoke with him yesterday or this morning, I suppose. Philippe is my corresponding office for Spain. He has a fantastic knowledge. He's German. He's German, but based in the Basque countries. For that reason, the Catalan and the Basque, they can communicate easily. And he is you cannot imagine, he has developed the same network as me in Spain. I'm not competent in Spanish wine. I consider I'm not. And he has a fantastic network of growers in Spain. And he's able to find exactly the wine fitting the market, of course. But before all, he will force the Spanish grower to respect the wine is sold, because sometimes the Spanish people are able to sell you 5 times the same wines to different people.
Interesting.
So it's a guarantee of the good wine will be in the right bottle.
And we are, just so everybody knows, we are planning to bring their cava over.
Cava. I'm selling his cava in organic in Germany.
They have. They also have some very interesting vegan wine and organic wine that we're also looking at. We think there's a market for here in the United States, but there's, some of these different things that have gotten in the way. We'd have, if it wasn't for the tariff thing and then the COVID-19, the cava would actually be here. So moving along.
One second. The second person I would like to talk to, he was at the dinner too, was David Rivers. Remember David? He's an old Welsh guy.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. David is the most interesting person I learned a lot from him. Imagine that in 1982, this guy came in Vigneron Catalan, the place I was a youngster there, and two persons came like 2 tramps, really 2 tramps. They drove to the company in an old Volkswagen Combi with sandals like monks. These 2 people were my friend David, my friend for 40 years now, and Peter Max Sichel. Peter Max Sichel, if you remember, was the owner of the brand Blue Nun in US. He was the winemaker, the wine grower in Germany. This guy was exporting 11 million cases in US in these years.
Wow.
These guys were 2 tramps. You cannot imagine. And they were they came just for selecting the Blue Non Red in our winery. And for this time, I understood that be careful when you are meeting somebody.
Right.
Somebody can be hidden behind these people, and something good.
Right. That is an important lesson.
It was a big lesson for me.
Yeah, we say here in this country, never judge a book by its cover. You don't know. I mean, yeah, it's interesting.
And with David, we maintained the connection. I'm a shareholder of his own company in England, and he works for Philip. Just to show you how it is working, because we apply the same. As an example, the company distributor Mark and Spencer decide every year of what they are buying. And they decided last year to introduce 40 new Spanish wines. 40. So they asked David to select the wines.
Hmm.
So David and Philip work with about 800 samples and bring to the buyer in October, November. The buyer came to Spain for a big tasting. They show 80 wines. On the 40 requested wines, they got 25.
Wow.
So because David knows exactly what is the palate of the English people is.
Right.
He's not selling the wines he will drink himself, but he's selling and preparing the wine that the people will drink.
Right. And that is a big.
And with such a teacher, I can go forward.
Well, that is true too. One of the traps we all fall into, myself included, is we tend to buy and resell the things that we want to drink, and that's really not how it should be done. The business is not about what I like; it's about what customers and clients want to buy. So, all right. So, moving along, how do you identify? So, your clients are the wineries that you represent. How do you identify a new client and a new winery to represent?
The old network is working. Meeting on during the fair. During the fair, it takes always time for me for tasting new things, new countries, and creating the link. And when I was using my holiday time to visit them when I was an employee. So that means I was stocking informations and relations. And when I decided to create my own company about 4 or 5 years ago only, all this, it was a fortune that I had in my hands, because I have just to choose the people I want to work with. And I work on different ways. I can be simply agent for some little wineries who have no exports at all. I can work as a consultant if they want to develop some new countries or new concepts. And I can also, for the largest companies, I work on the base as advisor. That means I have a contract for 1 or 2 years, and I bring them because most of the time they have a sales force, and they don't really need me, but they want to fill some holes, and I help them to sell specifically where they want to sell.
Got it.
Or I'm making the deal myself with importers, or I bring the export manager and he does it himself. He or she does it himself.
Interesting.
And in that case, I have a contract for 1 or 2 years.
And that's why you're so valuable, is because you're the networker. You're the people. That I learned a long time ago in business school that the world is built on networks. That's what the entire world is built on, and that's your role. And again, that's why a lot of times I don't know that everybody walking in and out of stores in the United States understands how important that role is, because it's that network and that relationship that makes things finds things to get on boats and come over this way so that they can enjoy them. So, what is the most satisfying part of your job?
Comment dire? When a long-term project is at the end starting to be consistent.
Yeah.
I never give up.
Right. Right.
And I don't force people, but sometimes I've been able to sell to some people I was chasing for 20 years. I'm very patient. It happened in Switzerland.
Yeah.
20 years. My longest.
Well, I wasn't 20 years, but I feel like I feel like I resemble that comment a little bit. So.
No, you have 10 more years.
What's the most difficult thing you encounter when you're building your network and doing what you do?
That's easy to answer. The French market. The French buyers are awful, particularly the supermarket people. No way to deal with them. So I have the possibility to refuse dealing, and I do it.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to say no.
Like, I guess that's sort of, if there's anything you could change, what would it be? I guess that kind of knocks out that question. It would be not dealing with French buyers, right?
I think I would have to start earlier my current business. Starting maybe 5-10 years ago could have been better.
Yeah, I get that. So I got like 2 more things to ask you, and then we'll wind it down and get to some questions if anybody's got the audience. I bet you guys get to taste a lot of wine. You probably taste more wine than the only person in this room that might taste more wine or as much wine as you might be Michael Kelly, who's listening in. He tastes a lot of wine. That guy tastes a lot of wine. You taste a lot of wine, great wine, but you probably taste a lot of wine that's not so great. Do you get to have much, if any, influence on the style of wine that somebody is producing, or what happens when you taste the wine and in your experience, you're like, that's not going to work? What happens?
Oh, it happens often. The influence is it's a great part of my job to influence people how to produce, and not how to produce, but how to blend, and to explain what will be the target in every country. If we are speaking about trends, we are following the trends. Laurence will be part of a new trend. I'm sure she will identify much better than me what will be the new trend in the consumption. But more or less, the Europe is coming back to lighter fruity wine, but the Asia is still remaining with super heavy red wines. And people ask me for 15% big reds. I won't drink this kind of wine, but the wine we are shipping must be the best as possible in this category.
Right.
And if you remember the little Korean, Mr. Kwan Kyu, the one who was speaking French, he is now my correspondent in Korea, and identify the taste and bring back all the information. And we found another company that maybe I presented you briefly the wines in Burgundy last year, CVS. Yeah. And these people are perfectly able to fit the market in Korea. And they from the time you tasted the wine with me in August, they have changed a lot, and now they ship to Korea. Exactly the profile of wine that is requested.
And that actually kind of bridges into the next thing. Do you, both, and this is for both of you, do you guys get to see trends before they develop, and you start to work at developing them? Or are you in front of trends, behind trends? I mean, like you just mentioned that you think that rosé is going to continue to be hot in Europe. How do you handle the trends that you see?
She's in the new trend.
I can see it with my friends in Paris, but it's not the same trend that my friends in south of France, for example. I know that in Paris, they are looking for light, fruity wine, biodynamic, but in the south, we're still going for the rosé, for example, in the summer. It's perfect for the summer. So we can identify with our community what is going on little by little.
Right. And Emmanuel, you were telling me the last time, it might not have been the last time I was there, it might have been the time before, you were saying that one of the trends that you see is in Asia, that they want big alcohol in the wines, right? 16%?
Minimum 15 to Korea and China. 16, no problem.
Interesting.
Big reds with a touch of oak and about 6 to 8 grams of sugar, even in red, with super heavy bottles. So we are far from protecting the environment. Bottles between 800 grams to 1 kilo, empty, and with a lot of gold and copper on the label. It's awful.
So, before we're getting out of time here, so we're going to end shortly with, I just got a couple of questions so we can all kind of know the two of you outside of the wine business. But can everybody that's here and the people who will be listening on the YouTube channel, can you understand how complicated their job is? I mean, it is not, they have to understand the market that they're selling to and the abilities and capabilities of their clients, and then be able to match all that up. And man, it's just not easy. I mean, I know for us, Tolkar and I, Mandy, Leona, Chris, I know we have a hard time trying to figure out what people are going to want to buy. I mean, and we live here, for crying out loud. Now, can you imagine somebody that lives in another country trying to figure it out? It's a pretty complex job. So that's what I think.
Every country is the center of the world.
Right. You ask Americans, we'll tell you that's the truth.
No politics.
Switching gears, and then we'll open it up if anybody's got any questions. But I got to know. And you would think I would know this after having quite a few dinners with you. What is your favorite food, both of you? What do you guys love? What you're going out to eat? What do you want to eat? What do you want to order?
I've got a passion for pasta, fresh pasta.
Fresh pasta.
With fresh pasta and good olive oil is perfect.
I will go for shellfish on the plancha.
Shellfish. Well,
on the plancha.
Yeah. Favorite thing to do when you're not working?
Traveling and drinking a good glass of wine with my friends, mainly.
Spending time in the mountains. When I was driving, we are at 3,000 meters high.
Got it.
We are lucky.
Yeah. Favorite traveling destination? If you could go anywhere, where do you really like to go?
I would like to go back to Nepal.
Naples, Italy.
No, Nepal.
Nepalese. Nepal. In India, no, Himalaya.
Nepal. Okay, got it.
Yeah. Sorry.
Interesting.
I love the dark forest of North America. New England, Quebec, and British Columbia. These dark forests, I love that places.
Cool. Favorite type of movie? Comedy or drama or mystery?
I'm more like drama for me.
My favorite movie, I think, is an American one from Hitchcock. I think the title in America is East to West, with Cary Grant, Mr. Kaplan.
I don't know, but I'm good with movies. So
Cary Grant is my favorite actor. So gentleman Cary Grant.
Got it.
Elegance.
Well, we are down to the very, very end here, and I want to thank you guys both very much for coming on and spending some time with us, and we'll have this on our YouTube channel. It's really been amazing. I don't know if I missed anything, and if there's anybody in the group here that has a question that they'd like to ask. Michael Kelly, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I just had a question for you regarding.
Oh, you went out. Michael.
I went out. Am I there now?
There you go. You're back.
Okay. So I have a question regarding the Japanese market. I do export some wine from California to Japan. And what would you say the two most popular whites are and the two most popular reds by varietal?
I must say my contacts are more involved into the French wines. They love white Burgundies. They love white Burgundies for sure. Meursault, these kind of things. And in terms of red, Bordeaux, unfortunately, is still active. They are still active. Bordeaux is kind of my enemy. Even if I am French, you know, we are revolted with Bordeaux. I represent only one company in Bordeaux, and the quality is a bit poor, so I'm not speaking a lot about them.
Interesting.
So, but the Japan is a quality market, so they buy expensive, good wines. So they are ready to pay for very good product. The trouble now with Japan is the imports from Chile, because they have a free trade agreement and they can import it in bulk. And by adding only 5% of Japanese wine, the wine becomes Japanese.
Huh.
So the competition is really coming from Chile. They have no taxes.
Interesting. Interesting.
And so because in terms of quality, I would say that Chilean wines, it's Merlot, Cabernet, and Chardonnay and Sauvignon, quite round and powerful, and they can compete easily with some entry-level Californian wines. And this is a big trouble, because they block your entrance on the market.
Michael, any other thoughts, comments?
But to add to the question there, the amount of cost of shipping French wine to Japan versus the cost of shipping Chilean wine to Japan, what do you think the delta would be?
But the Chilean, they are imported, and 90% they are imported in bulk.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the cost is maybe 4 times cheaper than coming from France in bottles.
Okay. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any comments or questions, thoughts? While we have two of the people that make things happen internationally on board with us.
Let me give you a little story about U.S. market. In '95, you had in California, the vineyard was damaged by phylloxera.
Yes.
If you remember that old times. And the US importers were looking for importing bulk wine from France. So we had an hidden person coming from US looking for bulks at the best price coming in our region. And we made a deal for shipping a few containers of Cabernet Sauvignon in bulk to California. And I was supposed to, I visited California maybe 2-3 months after this shipping the wines, and I asked to this contact, may I visit you? This is something normal. And this person was really hesitating. And at the end, he accepted to receive me. So he gave me a date in Modesto. And in Modesto, somebody picked me, and they brought me to the Gallo winery. Gallo was importing a lot of wine from us. I had the pleasure to have a special tour into the winery in a minibus, and then I've been guested to a lunch at the cantina from Gallo, and I've been surrounded by Ernesto Gallo, his son, his grandson, his granddaughter, and all the team, and they have been. It was like you were in an FBI room. They asked you everything, and Mr. Ernesto Gallo was making calculation on a little piece of paper with a pencil to calculate the cost of a landed Cabernet Sauvignon hectoliter to Long Beach. For me, a small youngster, it was something unbelievable.
Oh God, that would leave a mark for sure. That's great. Huh.
That's something for that's some events that's a landmark in my career.
Mm. Well, we're going to wrap it up here. I want to thank both of you, Laurence and Emmanuel, for joining us. There's just so many ways I could sit and talk with you guys for hours and hours, and that's one of the reasons I love to get on an airplane and fly over there, because we can do just that at a dinner. So thank you very, very much for coming along. And in the meantime, if anybody ever does have any questions or wants to network with these two, just send me a note and I'll make sure that you're connected. so that everybody can do that, because the world is all about networking, and you never know when, especially in business, your paths can cross. So three quick things. Actually, you guys will be happy about this, Laurence and Emmanuel. We are on June 5th. Stefan, the owner of Chateau Clémence, will be on board with us. So, and he's going to speak to us about the Fronton appellation and Negrette, and obviously owning a winery over there. So I think there's probably a lot of people here in the United States that have no idea what Negrette is, and so we're going to spend some time talking about that. Before we get to June 5th, on next week on the 22nd, we'll have Michael Keenan on board from Keenan Winery in Napa Valley. And on the 29th, we'll have Stephanie Powell from Forest Vineyards in Oregon. So we've got a dance card that's filling up pretty well, and we'll have a nice time. And again, I can't thank you guys enough for taking time out of your evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Merci.
So good to see you.
Good health.
Okay, everybody. So long.
Have a good weekend, everybody. Stay safe.
Stay safe. Have fun.
Health.